that's what the right one is. Now, moving on to the 30th question. Next question. Each of the paragraphs given below has a sentence missing, which is indicated by a blank. From the choices given below each paragraph, choose a sentence that seems most logically appropriate to complete the paragraph. So now here you've been given a passage and you just have to choose the right ending to it. So there are just two parts of it, right? Yes, so let's do it. So the first one, captive breeding has helped revive wildlife such as the Eurasian beaver, the cheetah, and the Arabian onyx. Several species have been reintroduced into locations in order that the ecological balance is restored. When herbivorous bandicoots were set free in the wild, they dug the ground and redistributed dry leaves and branches, reducing the chance of bushfires. But some predators may overhunt or threaten other vulnerable species. So now we have to give the right ending to it. So the options are, hence, wildlife conservationists should revive more of herbivorous animals and enrich the ecosystems. B part, conservation of carnivorous animals is complex and could be dangerous to so many other vulnerable species. C part, the revival of the ecosystem therefore depends on the eating habits of the animals introduced therein. And D part, therefore all species must be revived and allowed to live in forests regardless of their being carnivorous. So now again, if we look at the options, we can see A, B, and D. They are more of extreme ones. Like we should just focus on one thing, reviving just herbivorous animals. The next is conservation of carnivorous animals. It's complex and could be dangerous. So we are just giving direct judgments. There's no analysis of it or understanding what we are focusing on or how to go about the process. It's directly a judgment. So we'd like to avoid that, and the more suitable one here seems as C1, because the revival of the ecosystem therefore depends on the eating habitat of the animals introduced therein. We are understanding the process. We are seeing as to how the ecosystem is working and how it is really, not just passing any judgments with a small amount of information. So that's why the right option here would be C1. So that's our option. Coming to the second one, here we are not giving the ending, rather we are choosing a sentence in the middle. So let's see. Postponed from last year, the Tokyo Olympics are set to begin this year. The locals are wary, the athletes are anxious, training sessions are truncated, and restrictions are extensive. Yet, Japan in many ways is seen as a safe choice because of its past experience of hosting big events. It has an impeccable reputation for discipline and the ability to deliver the goods. So now, we have to fill in the blank here, right? But here we can see in the next line, yet Japan in many ways is seen as a safe choice. So this yet and seen as a safe choice, the positive later, like it gives us a hint that in the passage, in the blank that's been given, we'll use this line which is kind of in a negative sense, like it's of a negative light, because then yet and a positive sentence would make more sense. So the Japanese are anxious but ready to welcome the athletes. That's what the A option is. Now, is that right? It can't be right, because ready to welcome the athletes, it's more of a positive light. So that's why it couldn't be there. Next option, the shadow of the pandemic looms large over the Tokyo Olympics. This could be right, because again, we're talking about the pandemic, it looms large over the Tokyo Olympics. It's a threat kind of. Yet Japan in many ways is seen as a safe choice because of its past experience of hosting big events. This makes all the more sense, right? So let's give option B as a safe option and just read C and D once. So C, the International Olympic Committee has fully supported the Tokyo Games. That's true, but again, that's a positive sentence. That's not what we need here. We need a negative one. The International Olympic Committee has fully supported the Tokyo Games, yet Japan in many ways is seen as a safe choice. Doesn't make sense, it's just contradicting. So that's why elimination of C2. D, Japan is going through an economic recession and could run out of funds. Yet Japan in many ways is seen as a safe choice. No, because that would make no sense, right? It's just, it's more of a threat rather than just seeing it as a safe choice and still going with it. That's just foolish of us. That would be foolish of us. So that's why B option seems like the correct one, and that's why we go with option B, which is the right answer here. Now, coming to the 31st question. The sentences below have words that are missing. Choose the best options from those given below to complete the sentence. So again, we are given blanks and we have to choose the right options, right words that would fit in there. So first one, when we think about listening, we tend to assume that it is basically the same as hearing. This is a dash because it leads us to believe that effective listening is dash. Now, this is, when we think about listening, we tend to assume that it's basically the same as hearing. Now we know that it's not, right? Listening and hearing are two different things. So this is a blunder, fallacy, mistake, misconception. All four would fit in correctly. So first blank is not giving us any hint as to which option is correct. So let's just move on, because it leads us to believe that effective listening is spontaneous, impulsive, natural, or instinctive. Now it cannot be impulsive, right? We like, if we even if we think that they are the same, it doesn't mean that effective listening is comes to us impulsively. It could be spontaneous, it could come to us naturally, it could be instinctive. All of them mean the same thing, but impulsive, it's just out of the impulse. So no, that would not make sense there. So option B is eliminated. As a result, we make little effort to learn or develop listening skills and thereby dash a vital communication function. Now again, A option talks about forget. We don't forget about it, right? We don't pay much importance to it, but that doesn't mean that we forget about it. So it's too strong of a word, and that's why we'll not use it. So A option is eliminated too. B is already eliminated. Coming to C, and thereby reject the vital communication function. So reject. We are not rejecting vital communication function, right? We are just not paying importance to it. We are just thinking about it. So that doesn't mean that we are rejecting it ultimately. So that's why C is eliminated too. And neglecting. Neglecting is the word that we are looking for. So thereby neglect the vital communication function. We don't pay much importance to it. We don't pay much heed to it. And that's why it remains neglected. So that's what we're talking about. And hence the answer here is B. Second part. As vaccination rates rises and the governments relax their pandemic dash. Now, what should come in this dash? Regulations, monitoring, resolutions, systems. As vaccination rates rise and governments relax their pandemic, what would they relax pandemic related? Regulations is the most suitable one seems, but pandemic monitoring, relaxing, that doesn't seem right. Resolutions, again, okay, but pandemic resolution, that doesn't make any sense. Sorry. And last system, the pandemic system. So no, that doesn't seem right too. So out of this, we can go for regulations or monitoring, because pandemic regulations could be relaxed, pandemic monitoring could be relaxed, but resolutions or systems, those can't be relaxed. So that's why let's eliminate C and D as of now. Let's keep just A and B. The recovery of the event ecosystem is happening faster than expected. Event management, professionals or experts, it could be both, see the number of events and event attendance reaching and potentially surpassing or confounding pre-pandemic level in 2019. So, which one seems right? Surpassing or confounding? Surpassing, right? It's the basic grammar. We can see like the levels have surpassed the pre-pandemic levels in 2019. So that's why the correct option here is the A part. Okay, so the third one. The dash man was actually the dash manager the company ever had. So first and second are pretty, like vague. We can't identify suddenly that which one seems right and which one doesn't. So let's just focus on the third one as of now. Man was actually the dash manager the company ever had. We know it would be an adjective. We know it should be a superlative degree because we use the. So superlative degree out of the four options that we have is used in just two, A and B. So C and D are eliminated automatically. So we are just left with A and B. Now we have to see for the first two paragraphs. Assiduous is the same. So it could either be ludicrous or analytical. Ludicrous is more of in a negative sense, right? Ludicrous is someone like who's a foolish kind of a person, who's not that smart. So that's why we can't talk about a ludicrous man as is actually the most able manager the company ever had. That's just wrong. That couldn't be the case. So that's why this assiduous analytical man was actually the best manager the company ever had. There's superlative too. There are like positive adjectives too. So that makes sense. And that's why the option here is B. Okay, so coming to the fourth part. The best strategy to give and dash is to deliver it orally as well as in dash. So what can you give? It could be an approval, it could be an indictment, it could be an appraisal, but an appreciation, that doesn't make sense. You just give appreciation, not an appreciation. With appreciation, you don't use any article. So that's why the option is eliminated. Is to deliver it orally as well as in dash. Now, awards, memos, or writing. So we can deliver it orally, and like in general, you must have heard it, deliver it orally or in writing. So that's why writing is the most appropriate one out of giving it in awards or giving it in memos. So this one seems the more appropriate one, appraisal writing, and we can fit in the third one too. It is also important to recognize the employee's achievements in the same manner. Because again, you see, if you see promote or realize, that doesn't make sense. You can't promote someone's achievements. You don't realize someone's achievements. You have to recognize those achievements in the same manner. So that's why C option is the right one here. Okay, done. Now coming to the fifth one, last one. The Aravalli Range is the oldest dashed geological feature anywhere in the world. Now again, fitting in the first options, the oldest existing geological feature, makes sense, it could be. Oldest prevailing geological features anywhere in the world. Again, doesn't sound right, but it's okay, we can go with it. The oldest surviving geological features anywhere in the world. Now, oldest continuing, that doesn't make sense, that doesn't sound right? It just seems weird. So that's why we remove continuing and we go with option A, B or C ahead. These were once tall mountains, possibly as high as the Himalayas. Over hundreds of millions of years, these tall mountains have been dashed to low hills and ridges. Now, what could it be? These have been reduced. Okay, it could be. These have been destroyed to low hills and ridges. No, they can't be destroyed to something, right? Destroyed is just destroyed. It's not any decrement or something. So that's why destroyed is ultimately eliminated. B option is eliminated too. We are left with A and C. Have been eroded to low hills and ridges. It makes sense. Erosion is basically, the wearing and tear of the upper layer. So that could happen so that they become low hills and ridges. So that's why we're left with A and C right now. Yet, these diminutive hills have been dashed to many important events in Indian history. Now, sentinel or witness. Witness is the obvious option, right? Because sentinel is like a soldier kind of, or just, someone who's guarding something. So they haven't been really sentinel to the Indian history, rather they have been a witness to it. They've seen how it's taken shape or how events have turned out. So that's why option here 2 is C. Okay, so the last question, which is the 32nd one. Okay, no, this is 32nd, then we have 32, 33rd, 34, 35th too. So let's go with 32, where one of the statements below contains a word used incorrectly. Choose the option which has the incorrect or inappropriate usage of the word. So, one of the statements below contains, again, the same question, incorrectly choose the option which has the incorrect or inappropriate usage of the word. So, we are given 4 options and there are certain words which will be used there. We have to see which one is wrong. So, let's just go through them one by one. Naturally, the fauna of the region varies with climatic changes. Seems right? It makes sense. B. Some plants adapt themselves to a variety of climatic conditions. Again, makes sense. It's right. Some plants adapt themselves to a variety of climatic conditions. C part. When the last tree dries in the climactic scene, the message in the movie becomes clear. Now, in a climactic scene, you can see that it's talking about the climax here, right? The climactic scene. So it also seems right. So the only option we left is D now. The climactic changes from summer to winter affect the moods of the hero of the film. So the changes from summer to winter, they are climatic, related to the climate and not the climax of the movie. So that's why the climatic is wrong. It should be climatic here. And that's why the statement which is wrong is B part. Second part. The lives of the little princess in the large castle in the red city were luxurious. Seems right. The rooms were adorned with luxuriant trimmings of gold, silk and velvet. Shouldn't it be luxurious instead of luxuriant? Luxuriant is more of like in a different sense and luxurious is the more suitable one here. Let's see C and D too though. They were handsome men who were distinguished by their luxuriant golden dresses. So that seems right? Because those dresses could be luxuriant, but trimmings of gold, silver and silk and velvet, they are luxurious. So that's why luxuriant here is correct. And the last one, the cruise ship was of medium size, but the suites were very luxurious. So suites are usually luxurious, right? They are more of a luxury lifestyle that we're referring to here. That's why they're luxurious. So the wrong sentence here would be the B one, luxuriant trimming, as it should be luxurious rather than luxuriant. So that's what it is here, option B. Coming to the third one, A part. The king was under intensive pressure to protect the borders of his vast empire. So now intensive pressure, don't you think that intensive instead of intense would be the right one? They were under intense pressure. Intensive pressure doesn't seem to go well. It doesn't make sense. So that's why let's just leave it here. Let's go to BCD, then we'll know better. B. The subject's loathing of the cruel emperor was intense. So yeah, they loathed it intensely. So the loathing was intense. Makes sense. Without intensive study, it is difficult for most students to get admitted into any course. Intensive study, right? Deep study, you have to study like with full of giving all of yourself to it. So that's why without intensive study, it is difficult. Makes sense again. So D part. The intense debate between states led to the resolution of issues across the border. Right, intense debate, that's what we say, right? Intense debate is the correct grammar. So that's why, as we said earlier, A part seems to be the wrong one, as instead of intensive, intense should be used. So we'll write here. Yeah. Coming to the fourth one, A part. We call a mechanic to appraise the car before we bought it. Appraise, like just identify the rate of it or make it better in some way. So appraise the car before we bought it. Let's just see. It doesn't really make sense though, because you can't appraise the car. But let's just see. Let's go through BCB2. B. The principal called a meeting to apprise the school's governing board of the progress made by all the students in the past year. Okay, apprise the school governing board, inform them, make them aware of something, of the progress. So that's why it's used correctly and it is the correct option. At the end of each practice session, the teacher trainees are expected to appraise their own performance. Now, appraise the car was the right one, as we can see, because appraise is like finding out the rate or measuring it in some terms. So that seemed right. But now, at the end of each practice session, the teacher trainees are expected to appraise their own performance. So they can't really appraise their own performance, right? They can apprise their own performance, or they can, just inform other people of their performance. So that's why C should be the wrong option here. But let's go through D2. The soldiers returned to the camp to appraise the commanding officer of the enemy's location. Now, in D option, this also seems a bit wrong, because the soldiers return to the camp to apprise. It should be apprise, right? Because apprise is more of an informing one. So they are apprising the commanding officer of the enemy's location and not appraising. Appraising is again used in A sentence correctly, in C part correctly, but not in the D one. So that's why D is the wrong option here, and that's what we'll choose. It will be correct. Okay. So next, moving on to the fifth one. One of the statements below contains a word used incorrectly. So again, the same question. I'm sorry for reading it again. Yeah, so A part. The young girl said, I now request our chief guest to come forward for the lighting of the lamp. Lighting of the lamp. That's what we say, right? We just light the lamp. So lighting of the lamp, correct grammar, correct sentence. I just read that two men who took shelter in the tall tree during a thunderstorm were struck by lightning. Lightning, that's what we say, right? Lightning is the thunderstorm one lightning. So that's why this is also correct. I believe that skin lightening products have a lot of undesirable side effects. Now, this is right, because this should be the option we go for, because skin lightening products, lightening, you light them up. Lightening, the meaning here would be to make them less darker, skin lightening. To make skin less darker, these are the products that we use. So instead of this spelling out after T, it should be TENING. That's the right word here that we use. So that's why this is the option which is wrong, and C should be our answer. But let's go through D ones. The young girl helped the mother carry some of the groceries home, thereby lightening her heavy load. Now again, it is the one with the E, but here it doesn't mean to make it less darker. It means to just lighten the burden, because something is heavy, you make it lighter. Lighter for the young girl is making it lighter for her mother. That's why it's lightening. So that's also correct, and the wrong option here is C. Next, 33rd. In this, the sentences given below, when properly sequenced from a coherent paragraph, each sentence is labeled with a number. They sign on the most logical order and enter the sequence of numbers in the space provided. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4. So in this kind of a question, this is just a parajumble. We just have to see the question and arrange them in an order which makes sense. So let's just see how we'll do that. Let's first we have to go through all the sentences and then we arrange them as to like what's the right way of doing it. So in the past, companies with international aspirations simply familiarize themselves with any differences in the legal system or in the procedures used in day-to-day business of import and export. Modern day trade, however, demands more from companies. Today, the company seeking international success must also understand the people who live and work in countries they deal with, how they think, behave, and do business. To succeed in today's global marketplace, it is essential to learn as much as possible about the conditions in overseas market. So now we have to just arrange them correct. So let's just begin. So we read all the past sentences, and now like going through it, we can see that fourth one seems to be the right option, which we can start our passage with. To succeed in today's global marketplace, it is essential to learn as much as possible about the conditions in overseas market. That's what we are starting our passage with. Next, we are talking about today's global market. Then we go to the past one. In the past, companies with international aspirations simply familiarize themselves with any differences in the legal system and the procedures used in the day-to-day businesses of import and export. So D.A. Then modern trade, however, demands more from companies. So yeah, we started with a global scenario to succeed in today's global marketplace. What is essential? It is essential to learn as much as possible about the conditions in overseas market. Then we talk about the past. Then we come talk about modern trade. And lastly, we end it with today, the company seeking international success must also understand the people who live and work in countries they deal with, how they think, behave, and do business. So first, we talk about what's essential, the most essential one, to understand the overseas markets. Then how it was in the past. Then we come to how it was today, how it is in the modern trade. And lastly, we talk about what's also essential, like apart from understanding overseas market. So that's why the correct option here should be 4, 1, 2, 3. It's not really given in the numbering format, but as they've asked us here to number it, that's why I've put it in that way. Or you can just say D, A, B, and C. Cool. Okay. So moving on to the 34th one. Again, this is a Parajumble. So it mentions the video on TikTok that question and influences possible views on Israel-Palestine crisis. Social media has given us the expectations that every video, every tweet needs to be irreproachable and encompass the lived experience of the audience. Should celebs always have a take? Ask an article in a magazine. Do you guys even care about the issue, or do you care about the influencers caring about the issue? So now we know that it can't start with AI because it mentions the video. What mentions the video? What are we talking about? We have no idea. So the passage has to start with something meaningful. So that's why we start with C. Should celebs always have a take? Ask an article in magazine. So now we're talking about the article. It mentions a video on TikTok that question and influences possible views on Israel-Palestine crisis. So first we say that it comes 3. Because should celebs always have a take? Ask an article in magazine. Now from there we draw a connection to it, because it here refers to the magazine, the article in the magazine. So it mentions a video on TikTok that question and influences possible views on the Israel-Palestine crisis. Now quoting from the video, we are talking about this line, the given line in the quotes. Do you guys even care about the issue, or do you care about the influencers caring about the issue? So that's why 3, 1. Then we come to 4. Because that's what we are talking about, right? From article in a magazine, we go to it, which is talking about a video. From the video, we quote a line, and then we draw a conclusion that social media has given us the expectation that every video, every tweet needs to be irreproachable and encompass the lived experience of the audience. So this again is 2, which forms the order 3, 1, 4, 2. So again, it's C, A, D, B. That should be the correct option here. Moving on to the last one. Again, Parajumble. In a recent incident, villagers in a tea estate were shocked to find a leopard cub in a trench. The cub was then taken to the area where she was discovered and reunited with her mother. The 12,500 leopards in India strayed to villages due to their shrinking habitat. The wildlife vet examined and declared it to be uninjured but dehydrated. So, in a recent incident, what kind of recent incident? What are we talking about? That's not what we can start our passage with, right? It's like we are clueless right now. So that's why A is eliminated. Coming to B, the cub was then taken back to the area where she was discovered. Now, which cub are we talking about? What just happened? We have no idea. So again, that's not what we're going to start our passage with. The 12,500 leopards in India strayed into villages due to their shrinking habitat. That seems the right one, right? Because it's a general statement, it's talking about a fact, and then we narrate a story related when we narrate an incident which is related to this fact. That's why we start with C. So we write 3 here. Okay, so we start with C. Then we see that in a recent incident, because it's related to the 12,500 leopards that we're talking about, that's why we follow it up with 1, which is in a recent incident, villagers in a tea estate were shocked to find a leopard cub in a trench. So first we talked about the fact that they are, straying into villages. Then we saw an incident where this happened. So what happened next? The cub was then taken to the area where she Okay, so either the cup was then taken to the area where she was discovered and reunited with her mother, but this seems like the last one because this is a happy ending kind of a thing, right? So the D part, the wildlife vet examined and declared it to be injured but dehydrated. So the first the cub was discovered, then it was taken to the vet. That's why our next option would be 4, where it was examined and declared to be uninjured but dehydrated. Then the last thing that happened, our happily ever after ending, the cub was then taken to the area where she was discovered and reunited with her mother. So that's what we are going to end our passage with, and this is it. So this is how we are done with the whole of the section, BA section of this IIM Indore paper. I hope this helps you because don't just focus on the answers, rather focus at how we went through it, like how we approached the questions, what is the procedure that we took, and how we did it in less amount of time with more of accuracy, with all the options right. We didn't have to read each and everything. We did it though because just to help you understand better, but you'll know in exam now that you don't have to go through it word by word. Also, this will help you in exam to improve, again, the 2 most important pillars of the exam, time management and accuracy. So you'll be able to improve both through this video, understanding how we did these questions. And I hope that this really helps you. You can see as you do mocks, this is another mock for you where you can just see the pattern, you can understand the level of the questions that come, because it's a genuine paper just from the last year only. So you'll see what the level of difficulty is, what kind of questions are there, how much time it took for us to do it, and how to go about it, which is the most important one out of these. So again, I'm reinforcing this. Don't just focus on the answers. Don't just focus on what we did, what are the answers, if you got it right, if you got it wrong. It's okay even if you got it wrong. Don't mind that much. Just focus how we did it, how should you do it in order to consume less time and do it with more accuracy. So I hope this video helps, and all the best for your exams. Thank you so much.